Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Michael Wright, who's an insurance agent with Trailstone Insurance Group. Michael, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, welcome. I'm looking forward to getting to know you. It's always neat to hear people's journey in their career that leads them to, the insurance and the financial services industry. So what has that background been for you? What led you to Trailstone Insurance Group?
So a little bit different than most, actually. People's first choice in college probably isn't risk management or insurance, but it happened to be mine. I went to the University of Colorado, Denver campus, and I was sitting in a marketing class, kind of going through the motions. I was approaching my junior year and hadn't committed to a major yet. So we had the external relationship manager for the risk management and insurance program at UC Denver come into the marketing class. She kind of gave her spiel on the industry, the age of the industry, the turnover in the industry due to the age and the opportunity that would be there for younger professionals who had knowledge of the industry and what sorts of opportunities, there were there currently in terms of internships and entry-level jobs and those sorts of things as well. My mind got to ticking a little bit in terms of, the overall idea of why I was at school, why I was at college, to get a job. Michael, you're there to get a job and to, go chase success, right? So with that opportunity that kind of just, came across me in that class one day, I did my due diligence. I researched the industry. I found out what types of jobs were out there, and I decided to go for it. I entered into the program and graduated with my business degree with an emphasis in risk management and insurance, and did a little bit of networking as well, and from there got some internships and eventually got with a company called Auto Owners Insurance Company, where I handled claims for over 2 years.
Guess what I did not hear through that introduction? Hey, I was at college and this guest speaker came in and said, you can make a boatload of money getting into the insurance industry. So I wanted to make a lot of money. So no, you took an analytical approach. You assessed the industry and you saw something long term. So that, to me, that's really an interesting foray into this industry, because that's taking an analytical approach, and people that you work with, I am confident, don't get commission breath, as they say, where it's like, oh, Michael's just trying to get me into something. He really actually is looking at it from an analytical perspective. Do you find that in your interactions with people is that approach?
I do, absolutely. And that was kind of my intent. I kind of left off the background story there at Auto Owners, where I handled claims. And by the way, it was auto, property, and business insurance claims that I handled. And kind of what I learned there was how the policy applied in terms of coverage, and intimate understanding and knowledge of how coverage applies. And sitting in that seat, having that knowledge and understanding, I was kind of trying to figure out how I could pivot and get into a different seat with that knowledge and understanding. So that's when the insurance agent role kind of came across my mind. And that's where I got in contact with Trailstone Insurance Group and ultimately became an agent for them.
Yeah, I had about a 10-year career in the mortgage industry about 15 years ago. And so I know that from the production side of things, you are, handling things on the sales side. And then you send that file into the underwriter and takes on a whole new life. So when you have that background of risk and the underwriting / claims, you now are looking at a policy recommendation for a client through a whole different lens than just again, like we said a minute ago, a quote unquote salesperson. A salesperson's trying to fit that square peg in a round hole to make a commission or a sale. You are looking at it through the eyes of, okay, what would happen if? Kind of like when you play chess and you make a move and you keep your finger on it, looking around and go, okay, well, let's make sure this is a good move. Okay, yeah, it is now. Well, I would venture to say that you find yourself, when you're working with potential clients, that the approach you're taking and the recommendations you're making, you're maybe even going, hey, one time when I was working in claims, there was a claim that came up and if they had only had this, then it would have saved them so much. So that's why I'm making this recommendation. Can you think of any examples that way?
I think the stories are definitely there. But I guess what I would say more so important in my mind is the confidence in terms of the application of coverage, right?
Yeah.
Because we can read about the coverages all day long online, and try and understand how they apply in a real life situation. But seeing the actual chili hit the cheese, if you will, or cheese hit the chili, excuse me, a little bit different, right? So
Yeah.
you can talk about that experience with a consumer who has no background, not only in the industry but with claims, alone. But yeah, I could give you an example about claims if you'd like as well.
Yeah, give me or think of an example that your claim background made its way into a recommendation for a client where you were giving a new client like, hey, here's why you should pick this type of coverage or this kind of extended or dwelling coverage. It's because I saw this when in a claim.
So the biggest thing that comes to mind for me is on a single family home or a homeowners form 3 policy, which most people have that are homeowners, for a single family residence. It's called service line coverage, and it's coverage for the sewer line underneath your house that ties into the city main and probably in the middle of your street. Now, most base form policies won't have any coverage for that if a tree root causes it to collapse or if it's old and corrodes because it's just worn and torn down over time. Now, there are some companies out there who offer coverage for that. And I saw it at my prior company save people thousands and thousands of dollars for, I want to say around ballpark $30 a year. To dig down, excavate through a driveway or a front yard to get to that sewer line underneath your house, and then to repair the pipe and then put everything back together and make it look pretty again. It's not a inexpensive task there to do. So that was definitely one of the biggest coverages that I see impact and save people money on their homeowners insurance.
And I would venture to say that sometimes people may think or even say to you, what's the chance of that happening? Well, the chance might be pretty low until it actually does happen, right? So, I mean, the pennies, quote unquote, on the dollar that it would cost to have that on there would far outweigh the negative of when it actually does happen. So I think that's a really big point. And you know what? I think most of the time people go, great, Michael, give me a quote on my homeowner's car, auto, and what's the price? Well, let's talk about price, but let's talk about protection and making sure you're safe as well.
Absolutely. Yep.
So what are so I love that the route to the sewer aspect. That's not something people would normally think of. What's another aspect that when you're working with new clients that they have questions on, or you make a recommendation on that they go, "Ooh, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought of that yet."
One of the biggest things that I like to talk about, or at least try and work toward a mutual understanding on, is the agent role, specifically with Trailstone and the independent agency in general. It's more of a consultative position from my eyes and how I see it for my clients. I like to let them know that I'm not employed by any of these carriers that we do business with, and I'm here to be a resource and an advocate for you if needed. Now, if you think about these direct writing insurance companies, there's not a lot of them that you get the same agent that you call in one time to the next, right? So you get somebody new every time you're calling in, but with me, you're getting me every time if you need me, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point to talk about because you can develop that trust of being that local expert. And yeah, maybe you have some clients that are farther away, but typically your clients are going to be in the Colorado area to where the regions of the area, and maybe some nuances about that, right?
Absolutely. And not only that, but come claim time, you've got a friend, not you've got an advocate, a resource, somebody to answer questions. And I know claims can be seen as a little bit of a complex topic, right? And they're difficult to understand, and people want to feel like insurance carriers only care about their bottom dollar, and that's not necessarily 100% true all the time. So there's a voice of reason there to try and navigate that bumpy terrain.
So I know for me, I you mentioned you could read the policy, and I know that I got literally in the mail 2 days ago from my health insurance carrier a book, and I'm literal about the word book. It's probably 100 pages of here's your policy, and I'm going, what? And I have no clue. So you've got to rely on people. So I think that the ability of having that trust that you're going to be there, be that point of contact, that's really, really huge. But what about when people think, I've had this policy for several years. Am I getting the best coverages, the best rates? What do you do to ensure that that is the case for your clients?
So what I try to do is I try to emphasize, the relationship again, because most insurance products out there are they're very similar. You're going to get the same types of coverages from one company to the next. There are some nuances with coverage, like the service line that we talked about a little bit earlier. Not all carriers offer that, so there are those situations where coverage can be something that attracts somebody to a certain company, but more so, I think it's back to the relationship, having an agent, whether that be with Trailstone or, even, some of the captive insurance companies or, a different independent agency in Colorado, just having an agent overall who understands how the policy applies is paramount in my opinion, because when something hits the fan, you're going to want to have that resource who has the answers to your questions.
Yeah. Exactly. Talk a little bit about the status that you guys have there at Trailstone of being a Dave Ramsey trusted, endorsed provider.
Yeah, so we went through a couple year vetting process to get Dave Ramsey's endorsement, ultimately to be sure that we were aligned with his theories and philosophies, not only on money, but more specifically on insurance. And we made it through that, and we're continuing to serve his network of people as well. And it's kind of one of those things where we're kind of tied in already when they come to us. We're aligned because of how we see things through Dave, right, and his financial perspectives.
Well, and I think that people that know of Dave Ramsey's reputation in the industry for so many decades, and I followed his work for probably 10 to 15 years, he is very careful, as we all are. If Michael Wright wanted to make a recommendation to a local, car repair shop and they didn't do a good job for your friend, you would feel bad. So everyone's reputation is important. So Dave Ramsey is not going to just, check the box and go, cool, you guys can be on my list of approved endorsed providers. It is a vetting process, and it is an honor. And it's pretty rigorous from what I understand, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Hey, so talk about how you guys make sure that your clients are in the best priced policies out there, and how that's not just like, oh yeah, we'll take good care of you, but you've got a whole department focused on that, right?
We do, absolutely. And it's one of those things that also comes from Dave. Treat others the way that you want to be treated, right? Kind of that probably didn't start with Dave. It's a golden rule, but it's something that he is a big proponent of. And what we kind of did was adopt that mindset for our clients, right? So as agents, we have the ability to shop our policies on an annual basis to find out if we're getting the best deal on our own home and auto insurance. So why not afford that to our clients? Because we know that's what we would want. So with that, we're treating others the way that we would want to be treated. But I like to preface when I'm talking with people about that it's not, it is 100% an option. You don't have to switch every year. You likely won't switch every year. But even if we do present you an option to change, it's your policy. If you like your current carrier and you don't want to change, then no obligation to do that. So I know sometimes the idea of changing every single year, every couple of years can be daunting to people, but it's simply a service that we offer to enhance the overall experience.
But if you get that annual update that says you're good to go, you can know that it's more than just, Michael going, oh yeah, I did a quick Google search and yeah, you're in the best. No, or oh, I forgot this year I didn't do that renewal. You've got a whole entire department researching and making sure. So yeah, you don't have to change, but I would think that it makes you feel really taken care of when you get that update that goes, you know what, you're in the best policies for you, the best pricing, and you're like, okay, cool, that makes me feel great. Because the worst thing in the world would be to find out years of being in certain policies that you were paying way too much. And it's like, wow, if I had only known.
And to your point, we do have the ability to do that because of our renewal department. Yeah. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of volume to, continually shop that amount of policies. And, I know there's other agencies out there who kind of, make the same claim, but those other agencies out there may not have the department. So it
Yes.
like I said, it's a lot of work, and if you don't get that renewal in the year 2, year 3, you could start having some questions. But it's the real deal over here, and we've got, like you said, Mike, we've got the department to
It's
help
not
us
just
through
an
that.
algorithm like, oh yeah, we ran it through our internal debt. No, it is like people, multiple people, a department that their entire focus is, let's make sure that we can, say to you, you're in the best policy, or present you some options for better. So I really love that. I think that's a great aspect. And, I know that you are not a machine, that this is all you do 24/7. So tell us a little bit about your family and what you like to do for fun here in Colorado.
I am an avid golfer. So when weather permits, I enjoy getting out there. But in terms of family, I've got a wife. I've got a 3-year-old German Shepherd. She's my first kid. Second kid actually expecting, so our first
Awesome.
real baby within the next couple of weeks actually. So that's going to be a next big step for us.
Yes. Awesome. Well, I know that you are all about protecting that family, and that's what you do for your clients. And I love how you just laid it out really clearly. So what's the best way that someone hearing this could reach out and learn a little bit more from you about potentially how you can help them with their policies?
So I can actually be reached directly on my cell phone, text message, or phone call, whatever is easier. And that's 720-441-0488. Our agency, trailstoneinsurancegroup.com. That's our website. And my email address is mwright@trailstoneinsurance.com.
Excellent. Well, Michael, thank you so much for being on the program today. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Mike, thank you for having me.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.